Hello and welcome back to Formula 1 2019 on the TomFM channel. Today we are racing in Italy at Monza, looking for our second win in a row as we look to try and close the gap to our teammate Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton at the top of the drivers' standings. We're also getting pretty close to Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship as well. Just over 50 points between us, but we can really squeeze that gap hopefully in the next few races as we look to close the season in a strong style. Start off today's episode though with a bit of disappointment. Two upgrades have failed, an engine upgrade and a chassis upgrade, both failing, which is really annoying. We still though have the best car as far as I'm aware, as you can see. Best car still on the grid, which is good, but of course we failed some R&D issues. What that means is, it means that Mercedes have overtaken us with the best engine again, so that's kind of annoying, but we've got a massive advantage over the other teams such as Ferrari and Williams, apparently with the fourth best engine. Chassis wise though, we are still on top with that, and if we look at the aerodynamics as well, still on top of the aero, which means we do have the best car overall still, but Mercedes coming pretty close, so that battle for the title with Hamilton is going to go right down to the wire. As we head into qualifying here in Monza, it is all about straight line speed. So we're going to go to the car setup here, and we're going to go all the way up to maximum top speed and that preset for the setup. We need all the speed we can get. I think you're on the throttle for over 75% of this lap, so it really is just a flat out lap pretty much. So we want to try and get as much speed as possible. If we want to be making it into Q2 today, at the moment we need to be beating a 1:22.8, which I think is a very reasonable time to be beating. Let's go and do it. So as we cross the line here in Monza for our flying lap, Monza of course is the oldest track on the Formula 1 calendar. It's been there since 1950, and actually it's missed 1 year because it was being refurbished 1 year. So that's when it missed 1 year of the F1 calendar. But other than that, it's been on it every single year, which is quite impressive when you consider it. But right now in Q1, we've got to try and negotiate Stroll pretty early on to get past him. We do that pretty easy. He just came out the pits, so he's not on a fast lap at all. And actually we get a purple Sector 1, which is pretty impressive. I do think we'll do quite well here today because we have got quite a good engine, obviously. And obviously this track is all about top speed and engine performance, so I reckon we can get pole here today. And as we come round the very end of the lap on the famous Parabolica turn, which I hope is the correct name for that corner. I hope it's the correct name now that I've said that. But we cross the line in second place. Apparently Hamilton just did a faster lap than us just before that, and we're behind him by what, less than 100th of a second I believe, but considering it's only Q1 it doesn't matter, so we're safely into Q2. To get into Q3, top 10 is where we need to be, and right now Alexander Albon occupies 10th spot with a 1:22.6. Again, should be easy to beat. We should be doing that. And as we cross the line for our flying lap here in Q2, got a bit of a fun fact for you. In F1 2012, which is actually the last Formula 1 game that I owned before this one, I was at a house party, at a mate's house party at the time, and I came back afterwards, obviously after having a few drinks and things like that, and decided to turn on my Xbox and have a little play on Formula 1 2012. Decided to do some time trials at Monza, and I recorded my fastest ever time around Monza track after being to that house party and came home racing around this track. Obviously you don't do that in real life because that is drink driving and that's illegal, and I don't want to advocate that at all, but if you want to do it whilst playing Formula 1, apparently you get really fast times on Monza. As we look to finish the lap though, we're going to be in P1 this time. Fantastic stuff, a 1:21.4, so provisional pole technically speaking in Q2. We'll return to the garage again. It's not actually that big of a deal, is it? It's only Q2, but it means we're safely into Q3 to actually fight for the pole position. I think actually Lewis Hamilton has bang on equalled our time there, so we need to go faster than we did in the last session, and then we will be on provisional pole. I reckon we can do it. I reckon we've got the ability to do it. Let's go and beat Hamilton and get ourselves on pole position. So as we come across the line here for our flying lap in Q3, I need to concentrate a bit more because I want to make sure we get on pole position. So no stories this time around as we try and get a great entry into turn 1. An even better exit, which I think we've done. That could set us up for a very good lap here. Sector 1 then, it's going to be purple through Sector 1. You love to see it as we try and execute these next few chicanes pretty nicely. I'm pretty pleased with that. These two corners here, sort of 90-degree right-handers, can be quite tricky, especially because the gravel is so close. But if you nail them, it is kind of okay. And I think we have nailed it there as we open up our DRS to head down to the end of Sector 2. And in Sector 2, we've managed to get another purple sector, which is absolutely fantastic. As long as we can just maintain this I will be over the moon as we get some pretty good turns there. They're also pretty hard to get right. If you don't get them right, it's difficult. And Parabolica coming up now. This is kind of like that big turn in China that I just can't ever nail. I never quite get it right, but I'm doing an alright job this time. I'm pretty happy with that one as we come across now. Is it going to be pole position? It's not. It's seconds. Clearly, I just can't get that final corner right ever. And this time, we're not going to be on pole position, especially as Weber gets in the way there. And we're already down by half a second on our time from our last run. So, what's he doing? He just stopped right in front of us as well. Right. It's going to be second on the grid then. Unless, of course, someone else goes through faster. Oh, which they have done. They have done. We're starting 5th on the grid. And quite frankly, that is actually heartbreaking because I thought we were going to get pole position there. And it's not happened.
You can run side by side into the Rettifilio, but don't brake too late on these cold tyres or you will hit someone.
Warnings there from the engineers. Obviously, we don't want to be hitting things, but it's a very real possibility on turn 1. It's a very difficult one. We're going to be starting on the softs and going to the mediums on lap 6, so that looks all right to me. I don't think there's too much issue there, so we'll stick with that. As we line up on the grid then, we've been moved to 4th. I assume someone else has taken a grid penalty for something as we start 4th behind Charles Leclerc. We need to make sure we don't go into the back of him as Pierre Gasly in his new Ferrari is trying to come up alongside, as you can see. If we can try and dive down the inside here into turn 1, that could be quite good, but it's very narrow and Charles Leclerc shuts the door on us. Devon Butler, though, hasn't got great traction at that corner, although we can't really get... There's no room to overtake anyone here, which is really frustrating because we've got the better traction on all these cars here. We're going to try and dive down the inside of both Butler and Leclerc. Instead, we nearly hit Hamilton, and we're going to probably get a warning for corner. We don't... I slowed right down there to try and go over that, and we don't get the... I feel like that's an unfair overtake, really. I feel like that shouldn't stand, but I've not been penalised at all for it. I did sort of go over the yellow bumps that try and slow you right down. I don't know if that could be poor in many people's opinions. I may have done that. Well, the game hasn't said I've done it illegally, so I'm going to stick with it. We've gained some positions there, which is good, but we need to really hunt Hamilton down now as we really messed up those corners there, which is poor. We're going to go up to the rich mix though, because we've got 3 laps of extra fuel, which is weighing us down, which is why Leclerc is able to get alongside us and try to breeze past us, although he's not quite got the pace to do it as we head round Parabolica now, and I can never really get it right as we saw in qualifying. This time though, it seems to be okay as we're pulling away from Charles Leclerc a little bit, but Hamilton has already got a 1.5 seconds on us. We need to catch him up. There could be some drama going into turn 1 though, as it is always a contentious place for overtakes, although they weren't quite close enough, Butler and Leclerc, to get anywhere near us. So I think we're okay there. I think we're okay. As we come round to the next corner though, where we had that overtake on them the lap before, which I think is okay because I was avoiding collisions. That's what I'm going to say. I was avoiding collisions. Collisions are worse than trying to cut the corner a little bit, and I didn't want to cut the corner, but it sort of happened in the end. We went over those speed bumps, but at the end of lap 1 and halfway through lap 2, we're in 2nd place, trying to chase down Hamilton. I think we're in a good position. As we cross the line into lap 3, though, you can see that both Leclerc and Butler are a lot closer to us on this lap, and Leclerc's going to try and go for a move down the inside, although he pulls out of it, which is very wise, obviously, because he doesn't want to overtake us. And it's so easy to crash into that corner, which is why they're all pulling out of it, I suppose. We're sort of holding some cars up behind us, I think, just because I'm not very good on that final corner, Parabolica. I think that's when the cars catch up with us, and it's also when Hamilton starts to get ahead of us a little bit. And he's already 2.5 seconds, or 2.2 seconds ahead of us, near enough 2.5 anyway, but we need to get a shift on if we want to be catching up with it. As we enter onto lap 4 now, though, we've actually closed the gap to Hamilton a little bit. I mean, Butler's suddenly caught up with us, and Verstappen's dropped back. Gasly, who am I talking about? I'm trying to talk about my teammate, Charles Leclerc. That's the one I'm thinking of. He's dropped back massively as we just about get the move back done on Butler through turn 1. You can see that our teammate is fighting with a Ferrari at the back now, but Hamilton's suddenly dropped back a bit as well. So I guess the pace that some cars had, like Hamilton and Leclerc, for example, they've sort of dropped off now after those first few laps. I guess their tyres are starting to wear out a little bit. But us and Butler, me and Butler, we seem to be okay still because we're still fighting at a similar pace. But Hamilton has really dropped back. And if we can get a move done before pit stops, that puts us in a very good position, I think, going forward in today's race. We might actually get DRS on him. I think we get DRS on the main straight, don't we? Potentially we could be getting DRS down that main straight as he's going particularly slow now, Hamilton. We might even overtake him before that DRS though, as we are right on his tail now. Hamilton has gone slow for some reason and he is our prey. He's going to the outside of the track, obviously, to hold the racing line, but we brake a little bit later than him, get ahead of him, but he will probably have the better traction coming out the corner, the better speed coming out the corner. Although it doesn't look like it, he's not really gaining on us at all. He's having to use a slipstream quite a bit as he goes down the inside of us now. He's probably going to get the move done before the corner, but if we can go around the outside of turn 1 and turn 2 on the inside, which we have done, just like Devon Butler on the lap before, we've overtaken Hamilton. And this race is turning out to be a bit of a dream right now. If we can get a good bit of gap and a good bit of room between us and Hamilton before the pit stops, we could come out at the front of this race and potentially just cruise to victory. And if we look behind us now, you can see on the leaderboard that Butler has just got ahead of Hamilton as well. Like, what is going on with Hamilton? Has he suddenly got some engine issues or something like that that I've just not read or not heard about? Or are we seeing, because last race obviously Hamilton had issues because he was running third in last race and then dropped outside the points for some reason. We never really worked out why. We assumed it was just sort of engine issues in the end, because I don't think he had any contact with anyone, but something similar could be happening to him now as we've got ahead of him, Butler's got ahead of him, and now Butler is making a bit of ground on us. So as we come towards the end of the lap, I have been thinking over this lap, do we need to pit, really, on this lap? Can we leave it a little bit later? But actually, you can see that we are setting a red lap right now, which means it's a pretty slow one for it. It's not like we're going any faster than we normally do. So we're going to go in for the pits right now, and hopefully, or Butler's staying out, so he's going to try and go for the overcut on us. Hamilton, by the way, look at the mini-map. Hamilton's just dropped all the way back. He's stopped. Hamilton has stopped. I think Hamilton's out of the race, which, for us, is absolutely incredible. I can't believe that. Look on the mini-map. Hamilton's completely stopped. That is crazy. We also are the first cars to pit, which means we are going to be either doing quite well or quite badly at the end of the race. Hopefully, are we going to come out ahead of Raikkonen here? No, Raikkonen just gets ahead of us going into turn 1, and it's going to be a bit close between us and him. We have to really brake there, which is going to lose us some time, and we're going to have to fight through a pack now of cars. But we've pitted early, so hopefully we've got the undercut on a lot of these cars as we breeze past Raikkonen here. We've now got to set, though, a fantastic outlap. We've got to go real fast, and we've got to make sure we get the job done to make sure we come out ahead of Butler from the pits. Hopefully he gets caught up in the pits, though, by other cars. That would be really handy. I've not seen any message saying that Hamilton's out of the race yet, but it does say at the top, I'm P18 out of 19 cars. So I presume Hamilton is out of the race. Let's actually double check this. Once we get up to the straight bit, race director, Hamilton, out the race. DNF'd. So he must have had engine issues. That's why he dropped back so significantly. And this is huge. Like, this is actually huge for us right now. So as we come around Parabolica, no one's gone to the pits yet. I've been looking at the pit thing and no one has gone in there. So we are pitting pretty early on this lap. A few cars going in now, but importantly, Devon Butler and our teammate Charles Leclerc, they've stayed out. The Ferraris have, I think one's gone in actually out of those, but we're up to P13 now, still sort of running our own race a little bit as it stands, although we are coming up to a little bit of traffic, which could be a bit of a worry. And as we come to the end of this lap, we're in a bit of a train of cars right now. And ideally, this is difficult now because we need to... I'm really messing this up a little bit. They're probably all going to be going to the pits. So we need to get out ahead of them and avoid hitting them. That was nasty. I think Norris has actually stayed out because we blocked him off a little bit there. I've also missed who's in the pits. I think our teammate was definitely in the pits and we've overtaken them. We're in third though. Stroll is out in second. I presume that means Devon Butler is still staying out in first. Which, I'm not sure. Well, that's kind of good, but it means that we need to really get a shift on still because we can't even see him now on the mini-map, and that is a little bit dangerous. So as we come down this back straight, you can see there, right, Devon Butler has now gone into the pits. So we need to make this count now. He's gone a long time on those soft tyres. Hopefully he'll have lost a lot of time in these laps staying on some warm tyres, and we would have got some fast laps in to get out ahead of him. I think he's on his way out the pits now, though, so it's going to be really tight. He's going to be on some fresher tyres, though. We are getting out ahead of him, and actually by some considerable distance, so we really have made the undercut work really well. But for the final 3 laps of the race, he is going to be on some softer tyres than us, and if we mess corners up like that, he'll catch it up pretty quickly. So we'll see at the sector point how far ahead of him we actually are. But of course, on his fresher tyres, he is going to be faster than us. So it's going to be close at the end of the race either way as we head round this chicane. He's 3.6 seconds behind us. That's the magic number. And as we come to the end of lap 10 now, crossing the start-finish line, has he got closer? Slightly. Only by 0.2 he's got closer, so that's quite encouraging for us. Hopefully that means he's not going to be near us come the end of the race. He should still be 2.5 seconds or so behind it in the race. Fingers crossed that's actually the case, because that would be magnificent. We didn't go through those first sector corners or second sector corners particularly well, so actually I feel like Butler may have caught us up quite a bit on this lap, as the tyres I feel are starting to go a little bit, and I'm having to be a bit more conservative with how I push myself through the corners. I missed the sector time as well, so I'm not quite sure how close he is or how far away he is. So we'll see when we cross the line, start-finish line, once again heading on to the penultimate lap of this race. As I think I've really mastered this parabolica now. I think I'm much better at it now. I think I've got the hang of it finally at the end of this race. It doesn't really matter at the end of the race, it matters in qualifying more than anything. But as we cross the line, we'll take the engine mode down to mix 2 again. And he's actually 3.3 seconds behind us now, so we're actually gaining some time on him. So really, we just need to chill. Don't panic, Tom. As long as we just finish the race and keep doing what we're doing, we're going to finish ahead of Butler. You love to see it. And as we cross the start-finish line for the final time here at Monza, we are now, how far ahead? 3.4 seconds ahead. So we are gaining time away from Devon Butler, which is absolutely fantastic. I think I've been reflecting on that first lap, most of this race. Obviously, we got through that first turn pretty cleanly, but then we just couldn't get past Butler or Leclerc, because the track is a really narrow track. We couldn't get past either of them. And obviously, coming through here into turn, is this 3 and 4 or 4 and 5? I'm not sure. Either way, coming through here, we controversially overtook both Butler and Leclerc. We didn't get penalties for it, though. We didn't get warnings for it. I feel I only did it to avoid a collision when I was trying to get down the inside. I couldn't back out at that point either, so I tried to avoid the collision, and it worked out well for us because we overtook them both, obviously. We had to go over speed bumps in the process, so it did slow us right down. I'm feeling pretty confident that even if we hadn't got the overtake done there, controversially, we will have come and won this race. Hamilton obviously has had engine issues and sort of crashed out, but as we come round the final corner of Parabolica for the final time, we cross the line and we win the Italian Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff then on the podium, celebrating with our teammate Charles Leclerc, who came third, and our, well, F2 rival Devon Butler. But the F2 stuff doesn't come into the F1 season at all. It's like completely forgotten. They're just sort of in the game for the sake of being in the game at that point, really. So another fantastic win for us and another 25 points on the board. Charles Leclerc got the fastest lap of the race and so gets a bonus point. But you can see there how close it was between me and him. 4/100th of a second between fastest laps. So fair play, Charles. He's got that. But we got them all 25 points, which is good. Of course, Hamilton finished rock bottom of today's race because engine failure prompted him to be a DNF, basically. So I'm very excited to look at the standings. How close are we now to Hamilton? Oh, this is close now. So we're 15 points behind Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc himself is 6 points behind Hamilton. So because of Hamilton missing out on points in the final of last 2 races in Spa and Monza, we've really closed that gap, which is huge. Constructor standings wise, how close is it? We're 30 points off Mercedes, where Ferrari are 19 points off. This is getting tight. So a good points haul there means that we actually make a lot of ground up on Lewis Hamilton there in the rivalry, which is massive because we needed to do that, although apparently he got a faster lap than us, so that's quite annoying. Charles Leclerc, though, equal with him still on 11 points, so that's quite good. As for R&D, we've got 1,800 points to spend, so we're going to go and obviously try and research the ones that failed last time out to help us out a little bit. But after that, we've got 1,200 to spend. So I reckon another upgrade on the chassis will be quite good. Can we get another engine upgrade, or are we a bit too... we're not got enough points to get engine upgrades. What about for the power downforce? Not enough points to downforce either. So they're the two upgrades we're going to go for. 2 on the chassis, 1 on the engine. We also need to talk a little bit about power units. As you can see, the MG UK is at 81% condition right now. The one before actually was only on 64%. So we could actually swap to that old engine part. And then I think that's actually what I'm going to do. I was going to swap it for a new one, but actually we'll swap it for an older one that's got less wear on it. Use that for a next race or so. But after that, we'll have to start looking at maybe taking some penalties on some of these other parts, because some of them are starting to get worn and they're probably going to have to be replaced before the end of the season, because they will be worn out by the end of the season. So, next race, we have got Singapore, Russia, Japan. Maybe, I don't know, we could be looking at having to take engine and penalties on Japan or Mexico maybe. But we'll work it out as we go along. But no penalties for Singapore next time around, which is important. It's important we don't take penalties in Singapore, actually, because that's a street circuit, which is really difficult. So if we can start on pole position, something like that, that's going to be a massive advantage to us. So I will see you next time in Singapore for the next race, which is going to be very exciting. Until then, though, have a good week, and I'll see you there.